Good morning, this is Mrs. Arneson, and this is the introduction to our content for Science 222. It's called Rain or Shine. So I'm borrowing this title from a class that I taught last year. So if you took Rain or Shine last year, this year's Rain or Shine will be very different. So you don't have to worry about taking the same class twice. Um, so one of my favorite topics in science, and I'm a nerd, so basically I have a million favorite topics in science, is meteorology. And here's the word right here, meteorology. And if you ever watch the Weather Channel or you have an app on your phone that tells you what the weather is probably going to be like that day, those sets of information come from meteorologists. So they're the scientists that study what the weather is going to be like based on long-term climate patterns. So that's the first thing that I really want you to know the difference between is climate and the weather. So the weather is a really short-term word. It describes what the weather is like today or tomorrow or the next day. My favorite site for finding out what the weather is called NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is the government agency that checks the weather in the United States. And they sometimes aren't as detailed in their predictions as maybe an app that you have in your phone, but that's because they're only predicting as well as the science allows them to. And even though I love science and science is really great at predicting what's going to happen, the weather is really complicated. There's a lot going on. So we can kind of look at climate since it's long term and know a little more about that. But when we're talking about weather, it's very difficult to predict what it's going to be like in a certain place each day. So this is the site I like to go to, and I'm just showing it to you because I always find it really helpful. You can look this up as NOAA, NOAA, Las Cruces, and then this will come up. And if you're going on vacation, you can look up the weather in the place where you're going as well. So I really like this site because it gives you some information here that we'll talk about in this class what this information is for. But I just think it's a great site. And it also allows you to see some satellite images. So like I'm just going to click on this one, for example. Right now, we don't really have very much going on in Las Cruces. So sometimes in Las Cruces, this is completely clear. There's nothing here. This is, it's telling us some information about cloud cover and wind. If there's going to be a tornado box will like go around the area where there's a tornado. And so when we're going to have a thunderstorm, then a box will go around Doñana County right here. Because we have a mountain range right here, we do get some rainstorms because of what's called orographic uplift. But as you know, if you live in Las Cruces, like you don't get very much. You can also make these run on a loop. So you could do rainfall and say 1 hour total or storm total. So I'm going to click on this and it wants me to run Adobe Flash. Hold on. I guess I got a new update on my computer. So right now we don't even have a storm, so I'm interested in what's going to come up on here. So it has all these layers of data from instruments. So look, this is our loop right now, it's playing, and there's obviously no storm in Las Cruces. So that's sad because I personally love storms. One of the things I'm crossing my fingers about is that we can get some rain during this term. You can also look at any other part of the United States. So if you're interested in checking out what a hurricane looks like, you can use that as well. So that's my favorite weather information site. Um, when we get from weather and we move to climate, we've noticed something really important over the past actually like 70 years, which is that the climate is getting warmer and warmer, and that's due to human activity. And we're going to talk a lot about climate change. And I guess, I kind of had a thought change this break because I've been listening to a podcast called The Green New Deal. I think that's what it's called. And it's about the climate activists that are determined to save our planet. And they're young people like yourself. And so we're going to look at climate change from a hopeful perspective, like that we're going to actually make some positive changes in this world and save our planet so we don't have to die and live in fires all the time. And I'm sure you remember a couple of weeks ago when it was so smoky outside that it looked gross. You couldn't even see the mountains. Okay, so here's our academic standards for this class. We are going to, just so you know, you can click on what's called the evidence statements for the next generation science standards. These standards are way better than the old ones we used to have, even though they're still, I mean, I have problems with them, but it's because I'm a teacher and I have my own opinions about how we should do things and what we should teach in class. But this will tell you some like really specific information about what we're going to talk about in class. So this one, it says use a model to describe how variations in the flow of energy into and out of the Earth systems result in changes in climate. I made the essential question for this. So the essential question is something like at the end of this class, if you've learned everything you're supposed to, you could answer the question. But it's a big question. You can't answer it with yes or no. You'd have to write a paragraph to give an idea. You'll know way more than a paragraph about what's going on with climate change and global warming at the end of this class. This next standard is plan and conduct an investigation of the properties of water and its effect on the earth and materials and surface processes. So this standard and this standard are both like you need to do a thing in class. Like you need to go ahead and build something in class and do an experiment. But since we're online, I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do this. But we will come up with something so that it's meaningful for you from home. And then the last one is going to ask you to look at photosynthesis and cellular respiration and how those interact with other spheres of the earth. So the water cycle and a little bit, so this one's about the water cycle, the hydrosphere, and then this one's about the carbon cycle. And those are basically going to be the two big system cycles that we look at in this class. All right, there is a mention of these questions on your quiz for this unit, your introduction quiz. So you need to make sure and you become familiar with these questions. Every lesson, you're going to be asked to connect whatever we learned to one of these questions. So you're going to have to figure out, well, how does this have to do with, how does my lesson answer one of these questions? And that'll hopefully help you stay on track and stay focused when you're learning. All right, guys, have a great day.